a quick overview of what Ruler 2D does and how you can find it useful for your own projects. So it's essentially an alignment, distribution, and a spacing tool. It also provides guides and a grid system that can be used in various scenarios. So I'll just start by walking through the alignment tools that you can use. But before we begin, what's important is that you have to set the right context because Ruler 2D supports Unity 2D and it supports UI as well. You have to make sure that when you launch it, just set the settings and the context to the right workspace. So for example, right now we're in Unity 2D and we can arrange 2D sprites how we want them. However, if I set up a UI object, like a button, which works in a different coordinate space, what's going to happen is that you need to specify in Ruler 2D that you now want to work with buttons, and the same tools will just start working out of the box for Unity UI. So back to Unity 2D and back to the fruits. Uh, if you're familiar with Photoshop's alignment tools, this is exactly how Ruler 2D works. You can grab a few items and let's say you want to align them to the top of their bounds or their colliders if you prefer, which is a setting in the settings panel, colliders. You can just snap a button and they all line up to the top of the screen. If you want, you can even snap them to guides. So if I want them all to snap to the guide, their centers just jump onto the guide. In addition, there are distribution tools. So if I want to distribute things evenly, I can just select whatever I want and distribute centers, for example. Those are not the center. This is the center. And why isn't it working? Yeah, it is working. I didn't select the cherry. So if I select the cherry, bring them all down, and then I distribute the centers, they're all distributed. We could even, do it in the middle. Spacing is so that you can distribute them with a fixed space. So if I do something like 10 perhaps and line them up, so everything is like 10 units apart and so on. So we'll bring them back to maybe something 2, so they're not that small. Space them out. There you go, that's spacing. We went through snapping with guides. We can even snap to vertical guides, for example. I could snap to, everything just snaps to the right hand guide in this case. And you can of course undo the operations. Ruler 2D also has a measure tool, so I can select 2 items and I can generate a ruler. So here we go. Sorry, just a second. What we can do here is, let me get rid of the guide for now. So the measure tool can work manually. So I can just drag a line, right? Or I could select 2 items and it'll measure the distance between them. It'll automatically draw a ruler and it'll tell you how far apart they are with their angle information and all of that. Ruler 2D also has a grid system where if I select the grid, I can start lining up things into the grid. I'll just move the watermelon and apple out for a second. The rest of them are sized nicely for the grid, so my grid is on, and if I drop any of my sprites onto the grid, they will snap into the squares. So if you're setting up a grid of items, you can do that. You can, even larger items will snap into place to the nearest grid square. You can configure the grid the way you want. So this is useful for 2D level editing. Keep in mind that source code is available for Ruler 2D, and therefore you can customize it and extend it to any sort of project needs. Guides are, we briefly looked at guides, but guides are useful for aligning things, like you align them in Photoshop or Illustrator. You can lock your guides. You can control things via shortcuts, and these are similar shortcuts to what you find in Photoshop. Well, this is a quick overview. The website and support site has a detailed manual with all of the functions explained, and you can always get in touch with support@pixelfire.co if you have any queries. Thank you.